After episode 2 of Disney Plus's Loki drop, one of the more interesting things to come out of it was, and here's your spoiler warning in case you're not caught up, the introduction of Lady Loki. But Lady Loki isn't just an alternate version of the Loki we know, sometimes love, and always enjoy. Lady Loki's origins actually date back to the end of Ragnarok. No, not that one, the one without Hulk or the pretty colors. Yeah, that's the one. But as many of Loki's hijinks have shown over the years, everything is not what it seems. And shout out to Alex Russo. So let's start with what we have so far. In the episode, Agent Mobius calls the character played by Sophia DiMartino a Loki variant. And when you first see her, yeah, she looks just like what we might expect a Lady Loki to look like, but we'll get into why that might not actually be the case in a bit. First, just to hedge our bets, let's see what Lady Loki was all about in the comics. During the comic run of Avengers Disassembled, Thor and all his other Asgardian associates are all destroyed by the universe, being a little peeved that they kept escaping Ragnarok.
Oh, you almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
It wasn't too long, though, that they were all given new forms for them to make a new life on Earth. So, Loki, not one to ever let a good time pass him by, decides to snatch the human body that was supposed to be for Lady Sif for himself. This leaves Lady Sif's spirit to inhabit an elderly woman who is in the same hospital where Jane Foster works.
That's no good.
Loki then does what Loki does and manipulates, tricks, and schemes for a bit, this time working with Marvel's villainous heavy hitters like Norman Osborn, the Hood, and the GOAT himself, Dr. Victor Von Doom. But then the events of Siege happen where, you guessed it, Loki is defeated and returns to his typical appearance. Well, a little younger than usual, I guess. Although Loki has been known to change genders on the fly more often afterwards, such as during the run of Loki, Agent of Asgard. In the comics, and most likely the show going forward, it's important to note that this isn't a different gender-bent version of the character. It's the exact same Loki we're familiar with, just with a different appearance. And given the Norse mythology that influenced the character, that makes sense as that version of Loki was known to be just as likely to change gender and appearance as you and I would change outfits. But here's where things start to get a little fuzzy. In an interview with Decider, Tom Hiddleston, in a very Loki way, foreshadows how he sees Loki and Lady Loki's interactions going forward, saying that, "I think for Loki, it'll be quite destabilizing." What exactly that means remains to be seen. However, there's two theories floating around that could point to exactly how destabilizing it will be. The first is that it'll be more eye-opening for Loki as a character in terms of how he presents himself. So far in the MCU, we've seen him transform into many different characters, from Chris Evans' Captain America, twice, to the All-Father Odin himself, twice. Perhaps Lady Loki will inspire a more feminine appearance going forward, or cause him to look more deeply in how he presents himself. The second theory, though, has a much more tangible effect on our characters, which is that the person we see as Lady Loki isn't exactly Loki at all. Through some credit sleuthing, Twitter user Ashlinks22 noticed that the Castilian Spanish version has the character listed as Sylvie rather than the variant or Loki seen in different languages credits. Those with the superpower of comic know-how would know that Sylvie is the name of a young woman who takes up the name of the Enchantress, an Asgardian villain, after getting powers from none other than Loki himself, just because he liked the idea of someone believing they were Asgardian, for mischief purposes, of course. Sylvie's version has a little more nuance though, as she's been both a hero with the new Young Avengers as well as a villain while being a part of the Doom Maidens. With taking the name of Enchantress, she gains abilities such as transmutation, teleportation, energy manipulation, and has access to various different spells. In the comics, there's even evidence that points to Loki just straight up creating Sylvie instead of giving her powers, which just intertwines the characters even further. With that history between the characters, it could be seen that perhaps the Disney Plus version will be some sort of a daughter figure for Loki, which for a character who has been, well, let's say, largely unconcerned with others, could be very destabilizing. Or, instead of that more positive look, it could also mean that this version of Sylvie is out for revenge against Loki, and given his penchant for getting on people's bad sides, it's not too far from the realm of possibility. Her motivations may not even be tied to the Loki we've been following so far, as DiMartino's character's mission was to bomb the Sacred Timeline and not just fight Loki for those aforementioned revenge reasons. She could be after either a different Loki, and that was a ploy to draw them out, or she could have been acting out the plan of a more behind-the-scenes character. With only 2 episodes out so far, Disney Plus's Loki has been incredible in how it explores some of the more grandiose concepts in the MCU, and I guess we'll just call her Lady Loki for now, seems to continue that trend. Will she and Loki bond over some tricky timeline tomfoolery, or will the season be tainted by traitors' treachery? With new episodes dropping on Wednesdays, it's only a matter of time before we find out.